On this show, pawning a highly costly object is something that every spectator might look forward to. And Rick is now in Boston, where, should the sale go through, he plans to profit himself. Because he has a 1652 New England shilling, the earliest currency ever struck in the colonies, this special customer is extremely uncommon. Despite being the rarest of the rare, is this coin authentic? And I just learned that it was a rare and extremely precious coin. It's been with me for a while. Most of the stuff that people bring to our event has a crazy backstory. Indeed, this coin is one of those. In fact, the owner, Mr. Edward, discovered it by accident years ago. Talk about insane luck, please. Imagine taking a leisurely stroll on a bright afternoon when, all of a sudden, you come across a real piece of history. The first currency ever struck in the colonies, not just any treasure. That's a big gift from the cosmos and good fortune. The colonies were still regarded as British subjects in the 1950s. All they wanted was a little more freedom. Rick simply provided some background information on the coin by drawing from his extensive knowledge of historical objects, as was to be expected. As it happens, this currency acted as a link between British authority and the colony's eventual complete independence. Really awesome stuff. Here's the problem, though. Will Rick's judgment be affected by his extensive past? Or will he remain observant and make the appropriate decision? Is he able to make this deal? We'll see how it turns out. People would go and snip a tiny piece off, and then another file a little bit off, so you never see antique coins like this. The next file is slightly off. This coin has more than just a lengthy history. It's also in fantastic shape. And that's not all. In fact, it led to another fascinating chapter in coin history, as Rick describes how Sir Isaac Newton developed a rigged edge design. Yes, the gravity guy, Isaac Newton. You can tell that Rick is now completely enamored with the coins. There's no doubt that he wants to add it to his collection. God, it's in excellent condition. It's one of the major ones in the coin collecting field. The big question is now, for this product, what do you want? Rick was unable to conceal his feelings regarding the coin. He was obviously impressed. It's in excellent condition, without a question. Additionally, it is a major force in the coin industry. Those traits are all quite alluring. The true question, though, is how much this will cost. Without any delay, the proprietor presents a selection of prices. Approximately $250,000 to $400,000 for this historical item. Yes, that is a substantial sum of money. Is Rick going to go for it? Consider $225,000. I'm not sure whether I would want to sink that low. Can we get together at $250,000? Rick gets right to work and closes the purchase for a staggering $250,000, even though the initial offer was $300,000. Considering the potential benefit from reselling it, Rick seems to have won handsomely. What a bargain. One of the best pawn shops in history now owns one of the rarest coins in existence. Well done, Rick. That right there is some excellent negotiation. In addition to the money, my wife has been nagging me to leave the bitterly cold New England winter. Private hands, and I am going to examine one at this very moment. Rick is moving about once more in an attempt to close off another significant sale for the store. He's aiming for something big this time, a paper that has significant retail market value. The Declaration of Independence. Yes, that does sound like high-level government material, and for good reason. It's not common. Actually, just roughly 20 original copies remain. It will be a huge win for the store if Rick is able to get one. Undoubtedly a thing to be proud of. This is a very uncommon printing of the Declaration of Independence from July 1776. This is very incredible. Rick's enthusiasm for the work is evident from its impressive beginning. And who wouldn't be, really? The same would be true for anyone who understands its worth. It's more than simply history. It's also in excellent shape. When the owner first obtained it, it must have been a momentous occasion. It makes sense why he has protected it for so long. What's even more unique about it? It has never been sold. It is therefore as unadulterated and pure as it can be. The process essentially involves taking a copy from Congress, writing everything out, returning to the print shop, laying out his print, and then printing them. They estimate that he printed about 200 of them. Rick's extensive item knowledge is one of his many admirable qualities. He has gained a great deal of knowledge from his extensive experience in the pawn industry. In fact, He frequently ends up teaching the salespeople about their own products. And Rick is clearly interested in this highly sought-after document based on the enthusiasm on his face and the tone of his speech. Based on current trends, this may be one of those occasions when investing in a classic item like this is well worth the money. How much are you searching for? Then, this was on exhibit at Philadelphia's National Constitution Center. Well, it's in very good shape. Rick is obviously thrilled about it, acknowledging once more that this is one of the best work he's ever seen in his career. It turns out that this paper was first made available for public reading in the past. Additionally, the pinholes where it was tacked on are still visible. With all these amazing features, Rick at last posed a crucial query that would make the difference. How much will it cost to acquire this historical artifact? A staggering $2 million was the response. Whoa. The key question now is whether Rick will really pursue it. I've actually seen this exact replica previously, but normally would have to pull it out of the frame to validate. Naturally, Rick must confirm the declaration's legitimacy before spending so much money on it. To be honest, that's the best course of action right now. Naturally, Rick has a long list of specialists for various kinds of things, so he brings one in for this. The expert is immediately amazed. The text and the odd-vase pinholes appear to support the document validity, and it appears to be in excellent condition overall. Okay, so it's completely genuine. Of course. Okay, brass tacks. Huh? How much is it worth? What Rick hoped for was recently confirmed by the expert. The fact that the certificate is genuine is undoubtedly excellent for him. The specialist didn't stop there, though. He delved even farther into its lengthy history, perhaps even attempting to evoke the feelings that readers must have had when they first read it all those years ago. Additionally, he is exactly in line with the owner regarding the auction value, $2 million. This one seems to be going to be quite the ride for Rick. I wish I could offer you about $1.4 million. You raise a valid issue regarding the fees. After all, I understand how it operates. For $1.5 million, I would sell it to you. The time for the truth has arrived. Rick enters negotiation mode after hearing the expert's viewpoint and being obviously impressed. He offers a sum of $1.4 million. It's a good offer, but the seller insists that the price must be greater. At $1.45 million, Rick finally closes the transaction. Rick is clearly ecstatic about the purchase, which is a large one. $1.45 million, with no auctioneer costs. Complete the transaction now. All right. This belonged to my Aunt Mary Les Paul SG, who was Paul's wife and a guitar enthusiast. A rather intriguing item arrived in Rick's shop today. A guitar that is intimately related to Les Paul, the father of contemporary electric guitars, is resting on the counter. What's so special about this one? A direct descendant of the Les Paul family is the owner. Additionally, his Aunt Mary Ford, who was actually Les Paul's wife, owned this specific guitar. Whoa, this guitar might be quite profitable for the store if it is authentic. He essentially invented the electric guitar. Yes, and he had a successful music career. Nowadays, most individuals are unaware of that. They only know the name because of the instrument. Rick recognizes the instrument right away in the 1950s and begins to ramble on about the lengthy history of its creator. You can tell he's very interested in obtaining it when it's an item this renowned. Despite his extensive knowledge of guitars, Rick isn't afraid to consult an expert to make sure it's authentic. He would rather spend a lot of money on something genuine than waste it on a risk. This is incredible. The fact that I'm holding something in my hands is unbelievable. Les Paul for Mary Ford. This is completely insane. The specialist can identify many important characteristics when he inspects a guitar, and it is evident that the instrument, which was originally owned by Mary Ford, adds significant historical and financial worth. Both sides appear to be becoming more confident as a result of the expert's observations. The vendors seem comforted, and the prospect of having not just any guitar, but one played by the family of the man who designed it is making Rick even more thrilled. It's a legacy guitar. The instrument is fairly well documented. There are record covers featuring this instrument. The pickup covers appear to have been removed. In essence, the expert is praising the guitar profusely. It's in excellent condition, he says. Every component is in excellent shape and everything is whole. He even makes a joke that this would be the nicest guitar he has ever seen if it were a fake. That is quite a compliment. As you can see, the owner is quite happy with the comments. The actual question, however, now arises. What will the cost of this be? $150, most likely. Why you couldn't get it is beyond me. Who knows? You know, at auction, you have no notion that two wealthy men are at odds with one another. Okay, dude, I believe I have all the information I require. This guitar is worth a whopping $150,000. That's $50,000 more than Rick had originally estimated its value to be in the six-figure range. That is quite remarkable. It is obvious that the guitar has a rich history, which contributes to its high worth. Given everything the specialists have observed, he fervently hopes Rick completes the transaction. When it comes time to resell, he genuinely believes Rick will turn a healthy profit. Maybe a few of years ago. You know, in other words, the market has fewer buyers. You know, Jesse mentioned that perhaps 150 might occur at that time. Now that the negotiating has begun, it is obvious that Rick has no intention of letting this guitar go. He is prepared to make a serious offer, but he won't go over budget. Rick is aware that the seller's asking price of about $250,000 is simply unrealistic. They both decide to settle at $90,000 after some back and forth. That's a good deal for Rick. He is certain that he can recoup his investment and more. I recently spent $900 on a guitar and several others that I will eventually market. It's a huge sum of money. I went to sell my silver at the pawn shop today. Just now, a customer carrying almost 3,000 ounces of silver entered the store. Flipping that amount of valuable metal should yield a respectable profit, and that's a lot of silver. As it happens, the seller is here to profit from that long-term investment after receiving wise counsel from his father years ago. Will the payout be so great, though, that Rick will have to spend a fortune to close the deal? In 1964, silver was used to make all U.S. dimes, quarters, half dollars, and silver dollars. He has a mixture of silver in his bag, anything from bars to coins. Indeed, the elderly gentleman is quite intrigued by this offer. He has even taken his place at the counter and left his seat. He is aware that precious metals are a reliable investment. Indeed, he has spent the last 3 decades collecting them. It's impressive. By now, his vault is most likely worth a small fortune. One thing is certain, though, with this much silver in so many distinct shapes, authenticity is undoubtedly an issue. Today, consider the edge of a dime or quarter. Nickel and copper are visible. All silver, no copper, prior to 64. Rick verifies that all the coins originated from the same time period after investigating the matter. In contrast to contemporary ones that are blended with other metals, he is certain that they are composed entirely of silver. When the entire batch is weighed, the result is roughly 3,000 O. Considering how valuable silver is in the manufacturing industry, that's a lot of it. With silver's obvious market value, this should be a rather easy transaction. Although silver is the finest electrical conductor available, its price dropped to $3 an ounce in the 1990s. What a wise decision. It's obvious that this man took his time and patience to acquire silver. In comparison to his initial investment, he is now sitting on a potential fortune because he purchased everything when the market was at its lowest. Silver's market price is very high because it is a crucial metal in the electronics industry. It looks like the seller is prepared to cash out, and Rick isn't going to let this chance pass him by. It appears that both parties will benefit in the near future. It takes some effort to test silver, but it's not too difficult. To begin with, you must drill deeply enough to ensure that the center of the bar is free of a lead core or other metal. It's time to see if the bar is real. Although verifying the purity of silver requires a lot of work, Rick isn't hesitant. He is willing to go above and above to ensure that the item he is purchasing is authentic. The results are in after a few chemical tests and some melting. The bar is the purest form of silver. And that confirmation is exactly what the vendor was hoping for, based on the expression on his face. He seemed to be quite upbeat at this point. 942 is equivalent to time. Thus, we received $110.91 in total. It is, as anticipated, a fairly simple transaction. The seller doesn't seem particularly impressed, even though Rick does the math and the total comes out to just over $100,000. Obviously, he was looking for a little more. However, Rick presents it clearly since he is an expert negotiator. He won't make a lot of money from the resale. He is prepared to increase the price by a few $100s, but that is the most he can do. What about 112? No, no, no. For it, there's no profit to be made. The old man and Rick eventually persuaded the seller that there isn't much money to be gained on the resale after some back and forth. They don't speculate on the market. They cannot just wait for prices to rise while holding on to the silver. The seller ultimately has conflicting views about the day, but he leaves with roughly $111,000 in hand. The shop closed another good deal. Another day filled with important discoveries and major moves. Because I'm leaving today with more than $100,000. One of these will be my choice. Jim, Rick, and I are in a sneaker warehouse in Los Angeles. Additionally, they have a pair of sneakers that were worn by Michael Jordan in the Space Jam movie. If they are uncommon and completely authentic, fashion items are one of those categories that can fetch a lot of money when pawned. Rick is searching for one of the rarest Jordan sneakers available today, nor is he taking any chances. To investigate, he has already summoned a sneaker authenticator. And yes, this might be a huge score if Michael Jordan actually wore these sneakers at one point. We'll have to wait and see. Buster, since I expose celebrities that don phony Yeezys. I wear a mask and conceal my identity because I don't want to be sued for defamation. Meet the man behind the nickname before we enter the warehouse properly. Expert in shoe authenticity, Yeezy Buster is nameless. His area of expertise is celebs who believe that posting a brief Instagram story of their brand new sneakers will conceal the reality that they are actually constructed of $5. Factory foam rather than real prime knit and boost. One poor stitch, one off shade sole, and the six-figure pot of gold becomes a lead way to the most sought-after dunks ever. So Rick needs this guy badly today. Would you mind if I looked at them more closely? Of course. Okay, let's have a look. The shoes are obviously brand new. No heel drag is present. Furthermore, this is unquestionably a genuine pair. Great shoes. Yes, absolutely. The Nike SB Dunk Low Freddy Krueger was designed for the horror pack of Halloween 2007. It included a metallic swoosh that resembled Freddy's blade-tipped glove, blood-splattered leather overlays, and the iconic red and green striped sweater of the cult slasher. Less than 30 confirmed examples remain after Nike apparently abandoned the release and burned the stock due to a dispute over trademark infringement. It's an unofficial vintage remake. The quality is spot on. The scent. For what reason are you smelling? There should be a certain scent to the glue that actually binds the shoe together. Alright, that was really intense. These are the retro Eminem Encore Air Jordan 4. When Eminem's Encore album was published in 2005, it was first made available to friends and family in a limited edition of 50 pairs. In 2017, 23 pairs were released in a second, even more restricted edition. Eminem's work, particularly his comeback album, is also connected to this. The color palette of these 2017 models is same, but the blues and grays are a tad lighter. It appears that Mr. Bus is well versed in this area. In fact, they rank among my favorites. It's amazing that Kanye really wore these while on tour. Going on to this pair, Kanye West and Nike collaborated covertly to produce the Nike Air Yeezy 1 at the beginning of 2008. This was Nike's first sneaker partnership with a non-athlete, and it paved the way for a cultural revolution in streetwear and collectible shoes. It was crazy. Given that Kanye West wore these expensive shoes for Rick here today, this pair only makes it more outrageous. There are only a few sample pairs of shoes left because they were recently trashed. Okay, in addition, many people didn't really care for the Paris ones when they were first launched because they were unaware of their actual worth. The problem is that sneakers have the potential to become instant treasures. Heck, if you know where to look, even a modest 2005 Jordan 1 Paris SBO may sell for roughly $89,691, which is almost 149% more than retail. On the other hand, since hype doesn't cover the rent, a pair of fake, dead stock sneakers can remain unsold in Rick's back room. Let's look at this lineup, though, roughly $26,000. I would set the Encore's price at $32,000. Because there might only be one Fire Red or Ferrari Red simple sample in the world, it's quite difficult to place a value on it. Well, Rick, I believe you ought to gather all the kicks and transport them to... Who am I kidding? On to the next one. Rick discovers abruptly that he has not seen the reason he came here when he ponders those strong statistics. All of these sneakers are essentially the lead up to the next baby. Let's investigate. Chop chop. Nike created a unique black and patent leather Air Jordan 11 colorway in 1995 just for Michael Jordan to don in the 1996 movie Space Jam. Even with their yellowed soles and MJ's signature in silver ink on the left shoe, the shoes were never put on the market and were preserved in dead stock condition. How wonderful those shoes are. They came from someone whose kin, I guess, worked on the set. It seems that MJ gave it to him. Space Young, a live-action ad, was released in 1996. This type of sneaker is very different. It can essentially be sold for any price. Think from 3 zeros to 6. Why are they expensive in a good way? First of all, because they are players' samples. These sneakers were made only for Michael Jackson and were never sold in stores. Authenticity is also the key to success. If you don't have concrete evidence that Jordan wore these on the set in 1996, you're just holding expensive black patent leather. This goes beyond a simple movie prop. This model was introduced for the first time, and it was comparable to the Jordan 11, one of the most well-liked Jordans ever produced. What do you suppose they would pursue? Then, a pair of sneakers for $1 million. These shoes appear to be able to cover the rent, a trip, and more. This must be among the priciest things on the program. A pair of old sneakers from 1996 is worth $1 million. That cost makes perfect sense when one takes into account who wore it and the fact that it was used on set. However, that is still completely insane. Shoes. Let me get them. Then, those are awesome now. Would you be willing to pay them around $55,000? No. What would you take? $70,000 is a lot. That is the cost of familial love. 6